Hi everybody, this is my second attempt at recording this video. There's a lot of mess going on, okay? Sometimes life does not go your way, and today has been one of those days. I'll try to keep this intro short. Basically, I had this whole, hello going because it's been ages since I last recorded a video. The reason why is partially because I've moved, and when I did that I had to reset my computer because something happened. Tech was not on my side, so I had to reset my computer, lost all of my OBS settings, and when I went to record today, I thought I'd set up everything correctly, but turns out my noise gate was way too high. It cut off like every second word that I said, meaning that my bridge review was completely unwatchable. I tried to edit around it, it just did not work. So, let's try this again, shall we? Hello. It's so good to be back. I've really missed recording videos, even though this whole tech situation has been very frustrating. I've also lost all of my natural lighting, which is why it looks absolutely terrible. Bear with me. Welcome to my new backdrop. All I have behind here is my bed, but yeah, you're gonna be staring at these drapes for a while. I'm still trying to figure out the angles and everything. I moved about 3 months ago, and the reason why it's been a little bit hectic is not only did I move, but I also switched jobs. And some of you might already know to where. So, hello, I am now the community manager at Star Stable, which is a crazy thing to say out loud, and I have been working there for 3 months now, and I can just say that I've enjoyed it so much. I am having so much fun at work, and I'm super excited to go to work, and which is like a first for me. I will not bore you with all of the details of how much I struggled earlier this year just in my personal life in general, but just let it be known I'm very happy right now. And I'm also very happy to check out some new horses. So what we're going to try to do here is we are going to look at my recording because I had to record this on my work laptop, like the actual gameplay, which is why everything's a mess and it's all over the place. But I have the recording, so we'll try to just do a voiceover. Last time that I did do like one of these where I had to do a voiceover was for the Dutch warm blood, and that one ended up being quite short because I was able to get straight to the point. So hopefully that's what we're getting at today as well. So without further ado, let's have a look and see if we can check this out. When I did look at how I was gonna record this video now, and like if I wanted to do just like a voiceover or whatever, I did, when I landed on this, I realized that it was quite hard to talk over my impressions of the coats and everything, and I feel like nobody really cares about what I have to say about the coats and main styles anyways. You're here for the animations, so let's just move right along. This one is my favorite, this is the one that I picked, and this is the one that we're gonna be writing and looking at. I really like the other horses as well. I'm not a huge fan of the spotted horses in general, so I was not very interested in those. And the bays and the black and the chestnut were very pretty, but their coat detailing wasn't maybe as high as they usually are in my opinion. So I don't know why. Artistic decision maybe. They just didn't really speak to me. So I decided to go with this one because I really like the look of it. So let's just skip to the right part of the video. The frame rate will be a little bit low because, like I said, I recorded this on a laptop, so the performance isn't the best. But in general, I really like the profile of this horse. I really like the model. I'm not a huge fan of dressed horses in general, but this one is a little bit... It's targeted to be a little bit more sporty, and I really like that, actually. It speaks to me a lot more. I really like the frame of it, like the profile. It feels very proportionate in my opinion, and I really like how it feels chunky but not heavy. Which again, as a warm blood person, that I do appreciate it. I do kind of wish that it had a little bit more feathering maybe, but and maybe it would be kind of like with the Ardennes that had like, if you put on the boots, the feathering disappear, but if you take off the boots, then they have some slight feathering. But again, I don't mind a clean shaven look, to be honest. It makes them look really, really nice and tidy. So yeah, I really like the profile in the model itself, and the idle animations I think look nice. This animation right there, what timing, wow. That animation is, I think is really cool, really unique. Like it's maybe wafting off a fly or something. I really like it actually. The gates, I think are really nice. They're very preppy. These are probably some of my favorite, like, how am I wording this? Like, I like the most of this horse's gaits out of a lot of horses because it's usually like, oh, you like 1 or 2 animations maybe, or like you're a big fan of 1 or 2 animations, but I really like this horse's walk. It's like it reaches over quite far. I think, like I'm showing in the picture here, I don't know what I said in this moment, but whatever. But I think it just looks really good, and I also really like the hindquarter section that I show here. I'm a big fan of the butt of this horse. I always talk about the butts. in these videos. I think it really carries itself super nicely. It's very springy, doesn't feel super heavy, and just overall I think the animations look really nice. It looks peppy, you know, it's got a bit of determination in its step. Overall, I really like this walk. I think it looks really nice for this horse. The trot itself is also super nice. I really like how springy it feels, and again, I really like that it's super heavy. I think the hind legs look really nice. I think I do stop here for a second in the video and just like look at the hindquarters as usual, but in general, I don't think there's a whole lot of warping going on. I really like how isolated the hindquarters feel. They don't feel super warped, and in the trot they don't stretch super far. We're gonna get to them again in the canter and stuff, but in the trot and in the walk I think they look really nice. The butt really keeps its shape. It's very active in its hind, and it sometimes almost is like a little bit over animated. I think it's just to try to keep the peppy step and everything, and I think it looks good. It's just that when you do pause it like this, you can see that it's almost like a little bit over animated into itself, but the movement itself is very fluid, and I think it looks really nice. Like, it really carries itself wonderfully, and it really steps over, and it carries itself very nicely. As you can see, I was pointing here at how nicely it keeps its shape. The butt and the hindquarters look really nice. Remember that the mouse cursor thing, that's not happening right now. It's just my recording, so I don't remember exactly what I'm saying at this point in time. I do remember that I noticed that there's not a lot of elbow going on this horse, which I think makes the front leg look a little bit skinny, but it's not a huge deal breaker. It doesn't look like terribly warped. It's just like, it feels like it's missing a little bit maybe there. But in general, the movement is super smooth. The animation looks really fluid, and I think we're gonna get some great pictures with these. They do really feel like a little dressage draft. It's super cool. In general, I honestly really like this trot. I'm super impressed by it. The other gait that really impressed me was the collected canter. It looks so good. Like, look how cute it is with those little ears going forward. Ah, it's so cute. I love the head carriage of it. It really carries itself nicely, and I see where the dressage inspiration is coming from. It looks really, really good. The hind legs, again, it's super active and it's really light, and I really love how that looks. I'm a big fan of this horse, I must say. A lot bigger than I thought I was going to be. Not that I thought it was going to be bad, but I just, like, draft horses is not really something that I'm usually interested in, and it's not something that speaks to me, but I'm very positively surprised by these. Again, the butt really keeps its shape. I think it steps through itself really nicely. Something that I did talk a little bit about is that sometimes the right hind leg in the canter, which is all on the left lead, it almost, the knee kind of drops back a little bit, which it has some really nice extension, which we usually talk about in these videos, but you can kind of see how the whole, like, from the hind knee to the hock is like maybe a little bit pushed back in an effort to make it really extend, which I think works, and it looks super fluid. I just think like these freeze frames are maybe a little bit, they do it a little bit injustice. It looks really good on the left rear, but on the right rear, it just falls back a little bit, which I think you can kind of see the difference in here. I still think it looks really good, and it's not super crunched. Like, I think some of the horses before have been like, it looks like they're like hunched over. I don't think this one looks like that, even though it maybe momentarily has, like, it has some nice extensions and everything. Momentarily, it might be a little bit stretched behind itself, but I don't think it looks super crouched over, which I think some of the other horses have been. So I think, like, this collected canter is probably one of my favorites ever. Like, it just looks so good, and it really looks light and like it carries itself super nicely. Again, here you can see like a really nice extension of the hind leg, which is something that we've talked about before. Like, some horses don't really stretch, which makes them look really cramped. So this one looks really good in my opinion. Now, something that I really appreciated was how it feels like there's a nice transition between the collected canter, the middle canter, and the extended canter. This feels like a cool step up in my opinion. It's very extended, it's super light, very feathery. And it does feel like really engaged, but it still doesn't feel overly light in my opinion. It just feels very agile, but it doesn't feel like it doesn't weigh anything, because it still looks, in my opinion, like a heavy horse, just a lighter heavy horse, if that makes sense. I think it looks really nice. The extension, it looks very fluid. This is like one of the rare instances. Oh yeah, I love the extension of it, but here you can kind of see what I was talking about. The hind knee is like almost maybe a little bit too loose, which does give it an overly stretched look. but I think it kind of works. Again, missing a little bit of elbow there. But I think the reach is super nice, and I really appreciate the fact that it's not, it's really like maximizing its stretch. I think that looks really good in my opinion. It is a little bit lower in the hind, and like behind it goes very uphill, which is not necessarily bad, but it's really apparent in some freeze frames. In general, I just think it looks really, really good. But it's I think this is one of those rare instances where the middle canter is not my favorite gait, because that's usually the case. I usually like, if I don't like the collected canter, or if I don't like the extended canter, I usually really love the middle canter on some horses. But on this one, I think it doesn't look bad, but it's not my favorite. The collected canter, however, was like one of my absolute favorites. I think it looked so good. But this one is just very, very uphill. But I really appreciate the fact that both hind legs really extend quite well in their moments of extension. They don't feel crouched over, which I think is really good. So it's very, very fluid. It looks big, like the canter looks big, and like it's hard to sit, I guess, which makes sense because it's a pretty big and chunky breed with a lot of power. So I think it looks really good. The clipping is very minimal, in my opinion. Like, you don't see a whole lot of warping of the butt, which is really nice. It keeps a consistent shape, which I really, really appreciate. I think that does a lot for the overall shape of the horse if the hindquarters actually keep their shape. Because it's one of those parts where it's like, maybe you don't think about it, but when they are off, you notice it because the whole thing looks a little bit weird. So I think that's very interesting. I think it's very good that they've done it like this time. Overall, it just feels super light and springy, and I really appreciate the reach. It's very good. Now, again, the transition between collected, middle, and extended, I think feels really good and natural. I really like this extended canter. Again, it's very long, it's very extended. It really feels like they're pushing off. I like how fluid it is through the body. It has a lot of reach for a pretty chunky horse, which I don't know if it's realistic or not, but I guess they are supposed to be a sporty type of draft, so makes sense, I guess. This is not a breed that I'm familiar with, so I will not be judging that. But overall, I just think it looks really good. You will notice the same thing about the hindquarters again, or like the hind knees. They feel a little bit loose. It feels like they're straying a little bit far from where they are supposed to be, which does give a little bit of that, like the whole thigh muscle is like pulled back, which you can kind of see when you go to the opposite side. But in general, just really, really good. And it's not excessive in my opinion. It's not to a case of, some horses previously for me have been like, I don't want to take pictures in those gaits because they don't look good, or they look really unnatural or uncomfortable or whatever. Like, it's a game. Yes, of course it's not going to be super realistic, but you know what I mean? Like, it looks very uncomfortable, but I think this one just looks really nice in my opinion. I really like how springy it is. It's really like kicking off, and I really like how there's not a whole lot of warping going on as well in the butt, like the circular motion that was also fixed on the cell has been adjusted, and I think that looks really good because it feels comfortable to ride, which I very much appreciate. The rear is something that I'm maybe not a huge fan of. I think it doesn't rear very high, which is not bad. You don't have to, but the flicking of the front legs, it's quite excessive, and it feels a little bit like, it just feels a little bit out of place because the rest of the horse is so smooth, but then the rear is very aggressive and like kicking out. And it's also very symmetrical, which doesn't feel very dynamic, I guess. I would be very curious to see what the references for this one was. But in general, it just looks, I think it looks really cool. But in general, I just don't think it suits the horse. I don't really know why my recording is doing this. I don't know what I clicked, but bear with me, I apologize. In general, it's just like the low rear is fine. Kind of reminds me of the Dutch warm blood. It's not my favorite type because I really like the big, high, like super explosive rears. But the front legs is what kind of ruins it a little bit for me. It's something that I'm not a huge fan of. As you can see here, like it looks a little bit odd. I think if it would have reared higher and like had a slightly slower kick out of the front legs, I think it would have made a little bit more sense maybe. But now I'm just not a huge fan of it because I feel like it's just not as fluid as the other animations are, which did surprise me a little bit. Something that I absolutely adored though was the hard stop. Because we've spoken about hard stops before and how I don't like when they just like fall into a trot and it doesn't make sense. This one makes so much sense because you're just asking the horse to slam on the brakes and it's trying, but it's not a Western sliding stop where it's like, you know, slides on forever, which makes sense, and I don't think every horse should have that. But this is awesome. That brake, like that hard stop, is so good because the way it breaks off, it makes so much sense and it's so fluid, and I love that. I really think that one is. I hope that they continue doing that one because I think it really looks good because it's a seamless transition from the canter instead of having it all of a sudden being trot and then like awkwardly kind of like fall apart. So that I really like that one. Another thing that we of course look at is the special move, and I personally really like the special move of this horse. If you haven't seen it already, it's a little bow, and I think that's adorable. And I really like how engaged the player is. Like, she's actually asking the horse to do it. She's like tapping the shoulder. I think that looks really cool. I know the Marwari does it too, but I haven't ridden that one in ages. So I think this is really nice and fresh animation. There's that one split moment where it's a little bit awkward in the front legs when it gets up. It looks a little bit broken, but to be fair, I remember when I used to teach my ponies to bow, there were definitely moments where you'd look at them and go, "Are you okay?" But this moment is a little bit awkward. I'm not entirely sure how I would have been bypassed, and again, I don't know if a reference maybe showed it like this, but the overall animation is just super cute. I love it. I think it's adorable. And again, I really love how engaged she is, like the way she's tapping the shoulder and like, "Yeah, come on, you can do it." It's so good. I love it. Then, of course, the other thing that we also look at is always the jumps, and I must say that I was very positively surprised by this horse. I didn't think it was going to jump this well. Again, makes sense if it's a sport draft. But I was very intrigued by the way this horse jumped. It's a little bit front-heavy, which I think is not a bad idea because it's maybe not supposed to be the tidiest of jumps, but it has a really nice hind end. And something that I did like is there's definitely something going on with like the jumping system, right? I think we can all agree on that the horses like land way too early. But this one, some of the horses lately have been, for me, like they kind of jump up to the like peak of the jump and then like kind of float down. This one actually like turns through its body, which I think yeah, you can kind of see on the photo here. Like it has a point where it actually like the butt is the highest point, which some of the horses lately haven't had. Again, some hanging front legs, especially in that the collected canter jump. But I don't think that's a bad idea because it's maybe not supposed to be the sportiest, like I said. In general, I just think the jumps do look really good. The one thing that I'm maybe not a huge fan of is the way that when you're going up, that the horse kind of does get a little bit T-Rex arms. And I'm thinking if that's possibly because it's a little bit of a heavier breed, that the rigging like disappears into its own body. But that is something that I wish it was just like a little bit more forward. It doesn't have to be closer, like the front legs don't have to be tighter, just like not so T-Rexy, because I'm not a huge fan of that. That's like one of my small gripes. I don't really like that. But the hind end technique is really good, and I think that looks really nice and fluid. The middle canter did look a little bit more tidy, which usually makes sense. They jump a little bit faster, but here you can really see how the horse actually turns over, which does mess with our character a little bit, but I think the overall jump just looks so much better when they actually like put their butts up and like actually push through their hind legs instead of just like floating down to the ground. So I do appreciate this animation more, even though it does make the character look a little bit funny, but I really like that. And just in general, I think that the jump is fine, and it definitely doesn't jump bad, which again, if it's a sport draft, makes sense, but I didn't really expect it to be like this. The extended canter definitely also, it's quite similar to the middle canter. I completely missed the jumps here, nice. It's quite similar, they do look alike, and I mean, I don't mind the fact that they have the same jump and like different types of like speeds of gallop. Yeah, maybe it makes sense that the collected isn't the same as the extended, but if you look past the fact that our rider gets like almost sent off, which is like relatable girl, because me and some of mine that are quite springy. But if we look past that, I think these jump animations do look really nice. Again, positively surprised, but I really enjoy that. They look really nice. I think you can definitely get some nice shots of this horse, even when jumping and doing dressage. Like it feels like a very versatile breed. Just in general, I really like this horse. I didn't think I was going to because, again, I'm not a huge draft person, but they are quite sporty, and I think that's what I like about it. So I think I might bring home a few of these, actually. I really like them. They do speak to me a lot more than I thought they would. So without rambling and saying the same thing a million times over like I always do at the end of this video, I just want to say thank you guys for watching. I would love to hear you guys' thoughts and opinions on this horse in the comments. That's like my favorite part of these videos, just reading what you guys have to say about it. And I hope to see you guys in the next one. And hopefully it won't be like 4 months again. I'm so sorry. Well, thank you guys, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!